Hey, Crystal Maiden here, and the first level mods I'm going to show off will be completely original levels. You know how Generations is mostly, hell, it's completely about old levels. But it was okay because it was an anniversary game. Well, these level mods provide completely original levels. Well, I say original, but this level is kind of, well, it looks very original, like it's abstract. We don't really see anything like this in any Sonic game. It kind of reminds me of Gameland from Sonic Colors, though, and I guess that's what they were going for. And you know, that would make sense, because it's called Gamecube Galaxy. Sonic Colors is a Nintendo exclusive. You know, a lot of people would have wanted to see its graphics in HD. But Sonic Colors does appeal the most to Nintendo fans, so it makes sense that it would be Nintendo exclusive anyways. But anyways, this is a very good platforming level. It takes perfect advantage of modern Sonic's unique platforming abilities. Like his wall jump, for example. And on top of that, it also takes advantage of a whole bunch of gimmicks that, like, obviously level modders can't just invent new gimmicks. They have to use gimmicks that were already invented in the actual levels themselves, or just use those same gimmicks but change the graphics at least, which the Unleashed project had to do. So they have the pendulums that are swinging around from Rooftop Run, they have the Sonic Heroes cannons, and the Sonic Unleashed cannons, which, well, you don't have to do quick time events in them, thank God, but they're a pretty fun test of your reflexes. You also have the extremely slow swinging horizontal poles. I know it sounds weird complaining about how they swing too slowly. Like, you'd think that'd be great for the reaction times, and it is, but again, I just don't. It's too slow. It just feels hard. It feels harder to time. I have to get used to it. I decided to replay the level mods right before I would record commentary for them. That way I would have them fresh in my mind. Because it's been forever since I've actually played any of these. By this point, I've moved on to recording Sonic Heroes. And gotta tell you, Sonic Heroes, god damn, does it control a hell of a lot better than the Boost games. It was kind of difficult readjusting to that. Like it's weird using a control pad for a 3D game, but I pretty much have to do that because I try to use the analog stick and I'm like, this is so stiff. Compare this to Sonic Heroes, which doesn't control that differently from the adventure games, actually. I mean, I haven't played one in a long time, but it's only really slippery when Sonic has too much momentum, and even then you can just jump to cancel it out, and it's never really killed me. But anyways, this is a pretty good level. It has the 2D platforming that generation should have had to begin with, rather than just jump and that's it. It can be pretty challenging though, as my deaths have shown. For some reason I died. Like for some reason the music doesn't play when I play this as Scourge. The music wasn't too fantastic anyway, so I don't really mind replacing the music with something else. But yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, it's mostly about platforming, but then the level gets all drifty. Which is ironic, because, again, it's basically what Generations should have been. Have the 3D sections have the drift. But see, if I had been drifting there, I would have stayed on the right wall. Like, drifted to the right, so that I would go to the right. But because I wasn't drifting enough, I kept falling off because there weren't railings for me to run along the side of. And of course, running out of boost is always frustrating. You've got to constantly kill more enemies to get more. I actually started using for the first time the boost gauge up extender skill. Because, you know, the game controls like ass anyway, so I might as well not even bother with the controls improving the skills. I might as well just use that and that's it. And yeah, it works pretty well. I'm still stunned and stupefied that I haven't used the boost gauge extender skill until now. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to have to come up to a ramp, so I missed it. And last time I played this level, I actually almost died too, and I had to homing attack. Well, air dash to the left to avoid dying. But yeah, this is a fantastic level. This is basically what Generation should have been. I mean, I love Generations, don't get me wrong, I love how consistently great it is, but I just wish the levels were like this. Although not abstract and obviously not based around the GameCube, because, I mean, it wasn't Sega born out of rebelling against Nintendo, competing with it? Feels kind of blasphemous for Sonic to be all like, yeah, let's celebrate the GameCube. But I guess that was what Sonic Colors was all about. It's weird how Spiral Reef doesn't really have its own level entrance, so at first I didn't think that I'd done the level mod right. The gimmick with this level is that it's basically repeating the same level design over and over again, except it gets harder every time. Like, they add in new enemies, they add in new obstacles. Eventually, it starts to become glaringly obvious how terrible the ring physics are, because if you lose a ring, it's very challenging to get back. Look, it's ignoring me! Why is it ignoring me? I was jumping into it multiple times, and it was ignoring me. Who thought that was a good idea? It's like they took the... I don't know why they thought Sonic Colors' ring physics were such a good idea. There's barely any rings at all in this level. I mean, normally I would appreciate its platforming challenge, but because there's not nearly enough rings, and it feels like the rings don't respawn enough at that, eventually I got to a point where I just couldn't beat the level. Like, that's another thing, I think the level drags on for far too long, considering how easy it is to have no rings. It is a very inventive idea. And if the level modding community for Generations wasn't practically dead by this point because it's sort of considered an old game now, and I guess the modding community was like, ooh, a butterfly! I guess we need to go chase that instead. Seriously, I hate that. Like, just because Generations is a couple years old doesn't mean that they shouldn't be making mods for the best Sonic game ever made. I mean, come on guys, really? It just seems weird to me. But yeah, this is a pretty good level. I mean, it has a lot of potential, I just wish there were more rings. And of course, back to what I was saying earlier, is that because the modding community isn't really that interested in this game anymore, even though there's no actual viable alternative to modding for whatever. Like, there's no other Generations for them to mod. Force isn't even out yet, and it looks more like Colors than Generations. It'll still be a good game, of course, but I mean, it did just come out of a Dark Age of Sonic. You can't expect it to be fantastic right away. Unleashed wasn't fantastic right away. It had the Werehog. And I love the hell out of Unleashed, but still, Generations was better. Even if its level design didn't exactly match up to what modern Sonic should be. But yeah, I think this is the point where I wasn't able to progress any further, because like there's spikes everywhere, and I mean, I love these things, I love the balloons, but there's just not nearly enough rings for me to feasibly beat the level. I deleted the mod, I didn't even go back to it, like for this commentary. And this is Quartz Cryolite. Pretty interesting name. Not really sure what Cryolite means. I mean, I think it means something to do with ice. That would explain it. But yeah, this is a pretty nice looking level. It's kind of bland though, in the sense that you're generally just boosting forwards and that's literally it. But because it's in 2D most of the time, like most of the time when you're boosting it's in 2D, so it doesn't at all feel thrilling. Like you're just boosting ahead. If it was in 3D for the most part, and it was about drifting and boosting to avoid hitting the walls because you were drifting, like if it was more in 3D, then it would be a lot more entertaining. But because it's mostly in 2D, when it's got, am I walking on, huh? Okay. See, that's a great thing about the boost gameplay. Even when the levels are that unpolished, the gameplay is still fantastic. With other types of Sonic gameplay, it's heavily dependent on the level design for it to be fun. Like, if a classic level is designed terribly, then you're going to hate it. It doesn't matter if a boost level is unpolished, but it does matter if, like, a classic gameplay level is unpolished. That's what makes the boost gameplay so great. It's just the thrills of having the boost, having all of these different abilities to your disposal. That makes it great. I didn't have nearly as much trouble with this when I revisited it today. So, it's not really that bad. You just have to be careful. The ice physics are really crap though. That is one problem that never gets better. Is that they don't really understand, like, you move way too far in any direction, it's ridiculously slippery. This is badass though. Like, they're actually able to change the calm, relaxing music to something badass. The Red Mountain Act 2 music, which perfectly suits the setting. And like, look at this. This is so creative. Like, I don't think there's any other level mod that completely changes the level aesthetic depending on, like, you progressing through a level. And like, I thought I was going to die there because I fell down, but it just turned out that was just a mandatory way to progress. So it's like the level trolls. Yeah, this looks really cool. It's fast, it's fun. I think the level gets a lot better from this point, like the Red Mountain part. You gotta make sure that you get all of your homing attacks exactly right, because if you miss a homing attack, you might end up falling to your death. So you gotta make sure you react in time. In the Japanese script of SA1, when Sonic said to us, "I bet that robot hauled butt after her," which was a pretty awkward line. In Japanese, Sonic actually said, "Did that robot go after her?" Which was less memorable, but a lot less terrible. And this is pretty exciting, even if it does take a bit too long, like just flying forwards and kind of wondering, wait, what do I do? Yeah, if you don't homing attack in time, it's pretty easy to die. Like, you weren't expecting to have to homing attack, and then you fell. Yeah, this is pretty badass. Like, drifting as well as boosting. You're not just boosting mindlessly, you're actually drifting. I like how there's alternate routes, like the homing attack chain just to the right that leads to a spring. Like, it is nice when level modders put the effort to put in alternate routes rather than just being linear, because that means that they take even longer on making the level and put more effort into it. They make it bigger, which is especially inspiring because it's like they take the risk of the people who play the level not even getting to see all of it because they didn't take alternate routes. Like, some people are just going to play the level once. That's what I did. Yeah, that was a pretty fantastic level. I wish there wasn't any 2D in it, though. Because, unlike Gamecube Galaxy, which had a lot of great 2D platforming, Quartz Cryolite was mostly just boosting forwards. I think its prototype version was a lot more bland. Or maybe I played the prototype version because I thought the newer one would be too difficult. But yeah. It was pretty fun. Hang Castle, huh? I wonder why this is included. I mean, wouldn't it be its own separate mod? And it is. It just takes you to Sky Sanctuary. So what was the point of wasting code on including a level entrance for Hang Castle that isn't even there in Quartz Cryolite's level mod? It's weird. I will be playing that though, later. And this is Salif Island, which is a pretty ambitious level mod. Like, it's over 6 minutes long, and it has a focus on wide open 3D level design. Well, for the most part, it's 2D, and it has pretty good 2D platforming. Like, unfortunately, the 2D is actually the best part of the level. It's got good challenges like wall jumping and cannons, stuff that take full advantage of modern Sonic's abilities. But the wide open stuff doesn't really agree with the stiff controls in the camera. I mean, it's good that it has dash pads constantly that you boost into, and they send you where you need to go. It's good for preventing you from getting lost in a wide open 3D space. There's also lots of enemies that you can homing attack, both in 3D and in 2D, so you can keep homing attacking to get to where you need to go. In the Japanese script of Sonic Adventure 2, Amy still asks him to marry her, but it's more obvious that she's joking afterwards because she says, "And here I thought I had my chance." Eggman in his world domination speech feels the need to call himself a human. No shit. Like, it really does make it obvious that the human world is not just a world full of humans, because he needed to make it obvious, oh yeah, I'm a human, and that's important. When Sonic sees that the moon has been blown up, he has a pretty weird response. He says he's in way over his head. And when Amy pulls on Knuckles, trying to get him out of the sewer grate, he says, what is it? Which makes more sense than just move aside. Just move aside doesn't really make any sense though, which is the way Amy said afterwards, but at least he doesn't ask Amy where she was going, but we don't, even in the Japanese version, we have no idea what she was trying to do with them. In SA2's Japanese script, when Sonic's friends are overlooking the pyramid, Knuckles says, yeah, I definitely saw Eggman entering it. More importantly, is it true that the Batgirl was with Eggman's gang? Yeah, is the response. Which is better. Sonic says, I don't know about the space colony or whatever, but I'll destroy that huge cannon, beat them all up. Him saying beat him up is very bully-esque. Not nearly as characteristic of him. It's not nearly as charming of a line. And when he says Knuckles is a good treasure hunter to get into finding keys, he says best treasure hunter in the world. Which sounds stilted. When Eggman says you little thieves, in the Japanese version he said you sneak thieves. So either way, Eggman still calls the heroes thieves before the Egg Golem, even though they weren't stealing anything. Sonic complains about Knuckles steering the ship and says, I thought we were all gonna die, in the Japanese version. I'm surprised they actually said die. About the fake emerald, apparently its power is not the same, and so is its purity, whatever that is. Eggman in Crazy Gadget says the young girl's life is forfeit. That's a weird thing, he always calls Amy the young girl, not Amy. Eggman never calls Tails a weak insult as Fox Boy in Japanese version, but on the other hand, we have mostly weak lines to make up for it. What can you do all by yourself, you weak fox cub? Is a better pre-fight line. I got beaten by likes of Tails is a very weak line though. In SA2, when Sonic is leaning on Knuckles, in the Japanese script, he said, I hate to ask, but watch them for me. So it makes it more obvious what Knuckles is trying to do. He also never says the Chaos Control. His next line is kind of meh though. I'll throw this right down that weapon's muzzle. Not nearly as charming as I'll slam dunk it in there. At least we don't wonder what Knuckles was going to do to help. He just checks on Amy. In the hero ending, Sonic blandly says, good job, Tails, rather than awesome job, Tails, which is a lot more charming. Now, the last story, the Japanese script tended to do a pretty good job with it. Gerald saying, and you shall all die together is a lot better than all of you will be destroyed along your beloved planet Earth. Other than that though, his speech is needlessly wordy and bland. Knuckles says, stop this right now, if you don't, which makes it clear that Eggman is opposed to it, saying, if I could, I would have done that a long time ago. Sonic tells him, tell us what's going on, and he also calls Knuckles' piloting thrilling, not dangerous. So it's a lot less charming than him saying, just letting Knuckles pilot the ship on the way over here is more dangerous than you could ever do. Gerald's speech in the diary is devoid of any emotional impact in Japanese version except for these lines, which are very good. I no longer have anything. I no longer can think of anything. Nothing except revenge. It scares me. What in the world is going through my mind? Yeah, that line was pretty gnarly. Somebody please stop me. Based on the original data, I have finally completed Shadow. I also completely control his memories. That line makes it very obvious that in canon he did change Shadow's memories, and that's why Shadow wanted revenge in SA2. Why didn't they have that in all of the translations? They basically just left a plot hole. In the Japanese script of SA2, Amy's speech to Shadow makes a tiny bit more sense, but it's still pretty stupid. There is a meaning. Well, there really is constant fighting on that planet every day, and just like that old man said, people may be egotistic, self-centered, and foolish, but they're all living there. They're doing their best to live, so that they can all live happier lives someday. It makes sense to believe in that planet's future, even just for that. Yeah, Amy, you suck at persuasion. That's why I beg you, give a chance to all people living on that planet. Don't take that likelihood away from them. Does she mean the world will get better because people want to have happier lives for themselves, not necessarily for others? I guess she's talking about the progression of medical technology and stuff. But still, she's really terrible at that speech there. And again, what do people wish for? The kind of things that they can't share with others, like power and stuff. That leads to war. Exactly the thing that she's preaching against. Maria's speech with Shadow after that continued with, give them a chance to attain happiness. Please, grant everyone's wish. Which isn't as emotionally impactful, but sort of makes more sense than give them a chance to be happy.